Hey everyone, welcome to Fast Forward, the podcast about real conversations, not highlight reels. We go beyond tactics and talk about the people behind the work, how they think, what drives them, and how they grow. This is a space for honest stories from real founders. Today, I am joined by Scott Milano, founder and managing director of Tange and creator of Chatnamer.com. Scott has named more than 1,000 brands across dozens of industries and helps ambitious companies change the world one word at a time. Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Jeffrey.
Great to have you on. So, what you were before Tange and what early experiences or parts of that led you to into the naming world and creating your own company out of it.
Yeah. So, great question. You want the long answer or the short answer?
Whichever you prefer.
I'll try to keep it short. I think my affinity and avenue into naming and branding more broadly, but naming in particular, really started when I studied philosophy in college. I was just the only subject that I was actually and actively interested in, and thought, wow, this is fascinating. Here I am learning how to think and build structures and argument, like mental kind of frameworks, and leverage language to articulate something very abstract about the real world, or not even the real world. So I started there, but what does a philosophy major do when a philosophy
Yeah.
major graduates? I have no idea. So, and I had no idea, but I knew I liked writing. I knew I liked, building a case for something. So I got a job as an editor in a B2B trade magazine, writing, 1,000 words about products or something like that,
Hmm.
and really started to figure out, okay, this is a career and a craft, but is this exactly what I want to do? Over the course of the kind of progression, it's only a couple years, I figured out that I liked writing fewer words. So I went from an editor of 1,000 word article or 2,000 word article to a copywriter of,
Mm.
20 words or 200 words or something like that. So just sort of shrinking down
Yeah, you're
the
narrowing your thought process.
and the language that you're using to make
Mhm.
some kind of impact, right? So, based on that, just packed my bags. I was living in DC at the time, packed my bags, moved to Japan, became an English language copywriter in Tokyo. That's a whole other story. But
Nice.
within that, kind of just started to hone my craft as a copywriter. Along the way, I stumbled upon the world of naming through a big brand consultancy in Tokyo, and basically got kind of linked up with that and didn't really know what naming was. Like, we all know what brand names are, but we don't think about how they're created. And I just kind of, started working within that and really got super, super into it very quickly, and seemed like I had a knack for it. So that's how I found the world of naming. So it's
Hmm.
through philosophy, via
Yeah.
writing, and by Japan. And then based
Incredible.
on that, eventually came back to the US, started Tange about 16 years ago. And the rest is,
Well, that's fascinating. So you wound up in Tokyo and you were copywriting, you said, in Tokyo, and then you realized at some point along that journey that you would someday be more specific than copywriting into like one word naming processes of businesses.
yeah. So it's like taking long form
Yeah.
articles and a lot of words, to copywriting, which is fewer words, more impact, to a name, which is usually one word, maybe two. And it's like the ultimate impact. Articles, copy often fall by the wayside as years go on for a brand, but the
100%.
name is the only
Mm.
eternal asset, ideally. And it's such a fascinating world, and it's where I played for the last 20 or so years.
It really is. So let's talk about some early successes you found with Tange and how you knew you were on the right path and able to find the market that's not so obvious to some.
Yeah. So the way that I started Tange is kind of the real story is I got laid off in the Great Recession from an agency that I was working at in New York. And but at the same time, I knew I was just gonna try and build something myself. I always thought, hey, I'm pitching my work or creative work. Why am I pitching it for another business when I could pitch it for my own business? So even before getting laid off, I had laid the foundation for creating my own practice. At that point, it was more like just a freelance practice. But push came to shove. I was pushed out the door at that time, literally within an hour or two, I turned on the website for Tange and started to promote it.
You're ready to
'Cause
go.
yeah, I was totally ready to go. I kinda you could see how waves of layoffs, you might
Yeah,
get caught up in it. Better to
sure.
be
Plan
prepared
B.
rather than yeah. So, first 2 or 3 weeks were a bit of a struggle, but within, like, 3 weeks, I was already getting client work from previous clients, through my previous agency, and I just kind of a lot of grinding, a lot of, like, outreach. I had to rebuild my network here in the
Yeah.
US because most of it was actually in Japan at that
Oh,
time.
really?
So, it was, like, just full on, like, "Hey, let's go out and meet a bunch of people. Let's do a lot of outreach and try and drum up some business." So a lot of my early business was actually working through agencies, other creative or design or marketing
Yeah.
agencies, and offering my services through them to their clients. And then
Mm,
in many cases, because was coming at it from such a unique angle, those
yeah.
agencies wanted me to also work on their brands, which was kind of like
Oh, really?
another avenue in there. Anyway, long story short, I just kind of realized like, hey, this could actually be a viable business for myself. And then over the course of the years, we're a really small team. We're basically 6 people. I don't think you can run a shop like ours and really make it into hundreds of people with the focus that we have.
Right.
But that's the size that fits me. It's the journey that I've been on. And it's kind of how we've landed at where we are today.
Yeah, and getting started with a name is one of the first things that companies try to pinpoint, correct?
Yeah. So in most cases,
Yeah.
actually in half the cases. So half of our work is like new to world brands. So whether it's a company, product, service, initiative, experience, whatever, it's something new that's in the market. And you can't talk about it if you don't have a name. If it's a high
Right.
profile, high dollar investment, folks want to take that seriously. And that's kind of where we can come in and help very quickly get them to a result that's a viable trademark, that's like a great strategic fit, and it lands. The other almost more thorny aspect of naming that most
Yeah.
people don't think about, but it happens a lot, is renaming a company in particular, like a company or an organization. So that's about another 50% of our work. Sometimes if it's like a startup, they're scaling, they didn't get it right before, but they didn't have time to worry
Mm,
about brand, but they get an influx of cash or investment. They want to do it right and lay the right foundation for future growth. We can certainly help with that. In certain cases, it's large organizations that have outgrown their names and they need to rename, or there's some type of M&A activity where one name falls by the wayside or both names fall by the wayside. So there's all sorts of cases where most people don't think about it, but names are critical, and they're actually mission critical, because if
yeah.
you don't have it in place or you don't have that issue settled, all the development of a brand and then, taking it to market that you need to do is hindered, and it's essentially stalled.
I'm trying to think of something that has happened that I'm not thinking of, a brand that's changed names, a prevalent brand. Is there one that story that you can say that was, um, you know, a a jumping off point for you, like a moment where everything came together and it really worked, a successful campaign, a rename, I mean, specifically? Or is there
Yeah,
one that
one
I'm not thinking of that exists in the world that I just, maybe you worked on it,
yeah.
of success story?
So one of the bigger ones that we've done, at least here in the US, fairly high profile, is Ally Bank.
Oh, yeah.
So they were previously named GMAC or GMAC many years ago. And for a number of business related reasons, brand related reasons, they basically had to like dissolve the business, retool it completely, and stand up a new brand. So in that case, it was a big, very large effort. I worked on it with a much larger team and all types of
Yeah,
resources around us. But that is a case of a pretty successful
yeah.
renaming in a category that's kind of stale. If you think of
Yeah,
bank names, they're not usually
for sure.
creative, but um, they have to signal some type of trust. How do you do that and it really has to do it right out of the gate because it's people's money, it's their financial well-being, all that. But the name Ally was just a really simple but powerful solution that has stood the test of time. It's still central to all of their marketing. They come back to this notion of being
Yeah.
an ally for your financial well-being. And it's a case of really sticking the landing with a great name. but that's endured the test.
Right. I've definitely never heard of GMAC, GMAC, but I have absolutely heard of Ally. And that's the, yeah, that's the whole importance of a brand and a name. I mean, you have to get that right. Otherwise, relevance is harder to come by for sure. Sometimes
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people like will hear kind of pushback when we're talking to people about a naming engagement and they'll say, "Yeah, but we can succeed. We can build a great there's plenty of great businesses with terrible names." Okay, but why not have a great business with a great
Yeah.
name? Fire on all cylinders. Let's go.
Yeah. But it's a delicate process in changing a name because you have brand loyalty that you're trying not to interfere with. That's what I was trying to think of another example. Like it's hard to think of them because it doesn't happen a ton, but in some cases it has to happen because it doesn't fit with their old mission statement.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you always want to tread lightly. Certainly, brand equity and maintaining it is critical. However, most of what we see with our clients is when we're renaming a business, there is some serious problem. It could be a trademark issue. It could be like you just
Mm,
have to move away from the name legally, or they've outgrown it. So it's actually hindering them and preventing them from entering new markets. So, if someone comes to us with a hey, should we change our name? And there's really no reason for them to do it,
yeah.
we would definitely not push them over the edge. And like you need to take that very, very seriously
Right.
for this reason.
Right. It has to be almost necessity, not just something you can take loose or casually because it changes the entire way you're perceived.
Yeah,
A name, just
100%.
the name itself, and you understand the importance of that.
Yeah, it is the identity. You can change a logo,
Everything.
you can revamp your messaging, you can position it.
Coloring, branding,
Yep.
yeah.
But if you change the name, it's a totally different thing.
And you have to rethink everything that goes into it. So the naming is one part of the process. Do you have a team internally that does more than that, or you guys are just you hyper focused on names and then you work with other agencies on building it out?
Yeah. So we made a strategic decision very early on to stick in our lane, do what we do best. And it happens to be all things language and brand. So naming is the primary one. It's sort of the bulk of our business. It's the tip of the spear for any conversation about a brand. If you don't have a name, you don't really have a brand or a business. But we also offer a couple other services, language related services, writing, strategy, messaging. And then we have a data and research side to our business that can help clients get clarity on language related issues for their
Yeah.
brands. When it comes time to roll out a brand, that is much better just to design and build.
Yeah,
It's much better handled in more capable hands, which aren't ours.
sure.
So we partner with other design agencies or bigger brand
Yeah.
consultancies, marketing agencies, creative shops, all types of stuff. And then also clients will often have their own in-house division, like brand building division as well.
Yeah, exactly. You're the starting point, and then everything kind of feeds off of where you take it. And I imagine you have to develop a lot of language when you're in the early stages of finding a name in order to determine if it's the right direction. So you have to test a lot of concepts in order to know if this name is even right.
Yeah, for sure. And this kind of goes back to my own origin story of like philosophy, right? Like a name is a point of view on something. It articulates a strategy if it's done right. And to do that, you really need to have some foundational writing. Just we call them themes or different territories that speak to a worldview that's relevant to the brand or the
Yeah.
audience, whatever it may be. There's a lot of early preliminary strategy level writing that goes on. We keep everything short. We're not fans of like a ton of copy. We
Mm.
work in with one word, two words. So it needs to all be snappy, but we do lay a strong strategic foundation. And that foundation is language and ideas. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fascinating, and I'm sure the scope of your industry is also changing pretty drastically with the invention of AI, the widely used tool that we're all trying to wrap our heads around. How do you see it affecting your day-to-day, and how do you see it impacting the industry as a whole?
yeah, great question. It's actually one of my favorite topics
Great.
to create content about, to talk about with folks. I'm 100% proponent of leveraging AI in all aspects of our business. So everything from sort of admin, just that side of it, the financial side, strategy, research, creative, and then ultimately on the tail end of our naming, which is naming engagements, which is all about like due diligence and mock-ups and dropping them into presentations. So we literally leverage AI at pretty much every point at this point. However, we don't see it as actually creating names because
Mm-mm.
it stinks. It's just
It's I was gonna
not
bring that up.
it's not good.
It's so bad.
So because
Go
it's
for
like
it.
names are so nuanced and
Yes,
they
true.
need to be human, and we think they need to be human crafted. So my own stance and our team stance is AI is really an assistant, but it is not going to get you over the finish line. In the hands of capable creatives who can think laterally, who can, stare at like a giant wall of words and start pulling things out of it and curate ideas and craft them, kind of massage them and just sculpt them. That's where it has some impact and can speed up the creative process a bit. It can get you deeper into very far fetched topics more
Mhm,
quickly than
mhm.
you could with just the regular internet or old
Yeah,
school books and things like that.
right.
But it is we treat it as an assistant, but it's not going to get the job done by any means. But that
No.
said, we were pretty early on in 2022. You mentioned Chatnamer. I
Yeah,
saw AI kind of coming and had this idea of like, hey, can we create like an AI based naming engine or naming assistant? And if you go to chatnamer.com, this is like a second or third iteration of it. It's very basic, but it sort of takes you through an experience that is akin to it's like the super duper ultra triple light version of what we would do with a
right.
client, but you can see how when you approach naming, you have to be more thoughtful and deliberate rather than just spitting out ideas. So, but again, it's not going to finish the job.
I've tried it for naming even this podcast, and I mean, I gained nothing from it. I find it to be it doesn't know how to like the nuance, like you said. It doesn't know how to take in the entire scope of what you know about yourself and the podcast and how you want to be portrayed. Even if you write all that down, it doesn't understand how to hit every angle, and that's just through a typical use case. But maybe with chatnamer.com, it'll give you at least a better start to getting to where you want to go. Because I'm assuming you use your own language and you train the model based on everything that you guys do at Tange.
It's not that sophisticated. It's a free tool, so
Not everything. Yeah, yeah. You don't want to give it away.
yeah, we haven't monetized it.
The
If and
gold.
when
That's
we
the
do,
gold, right? You can't give
it
it all
it'll
away.
it'll be a little more robust. But we have a lot of tools that we use within our process, custom GPTs, large models that have um, over 250,000 human crafted names. We can
Nice.
mine them. That's IP that we've built over the course of 16 or so years. And AI allows you to leverage it and navigate it in ways that would have either not been possible or would have been very costly for a smaller business like ours.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to, continue to leverage it and keep climbing the mountain of information because it's only growing by the day, and the amount of tools that are readily available to us seemingly are never going to end. So, I think it's great as a business owner to embrace it and find better ways to, enhance not only yourselves, but your clients' end product.
Yeah. I mean, is inevitable, right?
It's
Like
inevitable.
I was having lunch with a large group of other creatives and agency people yesterday, and I turned to one of them and was just chatting about, what's going on. And this person had mentioned that they refuse to use AI in any of their work. And I was just, for certain jobs, of course, like
Yeah.
there's no need, but I just felt like, wow, that's a bold move because my stance is you got to get in there and just learn how to leverage it. It's super powerful.
And being where I am now, it's been 3 years, right, since we kind of ChatGPT was released to the world. Um, I, cannot imagine my life without it trying to utilize the tools at this stage, and if I didn't know anything, like, if I was starting over again in 2022 and it was been 3 years and I hadn't learned anything, I would be a little worried about how I'm gonna find my place in the world in 5, 10 years.
Yeah,
So,
for
I
sure.
mean I'm not saying you need to embrace it in your daily life, but in terms of continuing an upward trajectory in whatever career you're approaching, you need to understand it because before you know it, it could be not it itself, but others that and your competitors in whatever industry you might be in are utilizing it. So you're only falling behind.
Yeah, for sure. One question that we sometimes get is, do we think it's going to be an existential threat to our business? Which
Yeah.
is everybody thinks, oh, I could just jump on a Claude or a ChatGPT and get some names and call it a
Yeah,
day.
that's the
And
topic I wanted to bring up.
yeah, you might be able to do that for like low level stuff. Like if you're naming a feature in a product or some type of initiative or campaign, our stance is like, go for it, try it, see if it works for you. But if you're naming, a multi-million dollar or multi-billion dollar enterprise, or you're renaming it and you're going to like give an intern, a brief to like spit out some names on ChatGPT, and if you think that's going to move the needle and get you to the right result, that you're going to invest again millions of dollars in, you're probably insane. So that's perfectly fine. We actually will encourage clients, if they're skeptical about why they should hire us, to just go and
Go
do it.
ahead.
Try it. See what kind of result you get. And if it works for you, that's cool. But more often than not, it's not. And you're going to either not succeed, delay a project, waste money, or worst of all, launch with a terrible name.
Which has I mean, the downside to that is beyond measure. You don't I mean, you basically might as well not be doing anything because you're just hurting yourself.
Yeah, that could be the case. So we've seen a couple things like that. Like I don't want to point out specific examples, but like
Sure.
we've seen when we've talked to a client about, or a prospect about working together, and then
Yeah.
they go some other route, and then 6 months later it comes out and it's like, ooh, that was a doozy. So, you know, to each his own. You do it your way, it's perfectly fine. But we don't feel like it's, at least now, an existential threat in terms of AI. It's a tool that can be leveraged in so many different ways. And in order to get the best work out the door as quickly as possible, we're all for it at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't in your specific field, I cannot see a situation where you it's an existential crisis because of how you guys are involved and how human it is to provide this service. Like the nuance of naming is so deep. The depth of in which you have to consider things is beyond what information that the AI agents are processing. I mean, there's so much more to it than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also like, it's like a, little bit of a naming is emotional. Like people
Mm,
get attached to names very deeply, and you have to be able to navigate one-on-one dynamics in terms of helping a CEO or a startup founder or a brand team, helping them get a certain level of confidence in the work. And that really can't be done with a tool like an AI tool. It's a
no.
conversation, it's creative exploration, it's thoughtful reflection, it's discussion back and forth. It's time. It's all sorts of things that come into play there. And then when you're working with a larger team, multiply those dynamics by however many people are part of the team, and it's clearly, you need a human, you need somebody
Yeah.
skilled to help guide, navigate, and lead people through a very difficult decision-making process usually.
Exactly. That's what I was going to ask next because I imagine it's not all roses in terms of the first name you make a presentation, you think you got it dialed in, and then your client maybe doesn't agree. I mean, it's just the nature of the game. How do you handle that delicately? Because I'm sure you've done your research. You know that you're comfortable with this name personally. But what if it's not received in the way you expect?
Yeah, great question. So our entire process of how we do it, how we work with a client, is designed to mitigate that kind of risk along with all types of other risks that are out there and part of the naming landscape. If you're take clients on a journey and you're getting their input at key
Mm,
stages within the process, you're getting buy-in. You're collectively developing a universal definition of what success is going to look like. More often than not, you're going to get there together. And that's the goal. That's always the goal. We don't want to come out of left field unless it's intentional and be like, hey, here's your name. And they're like, what is that? We don't get that. Where did that come from? The whole process is designed to set up criteria, a framework, a structure, a strategy to know that we've actually got the right name at the end of that journey. Um, so when we were earlier on in our work,
Yeah.
sometimes you'd have, I think we had a little bit more of that, like, hey, we don't really like anything. Can you go back in and do more? Which is, of course, we will. It's always a commitment to get to a great result. But we see that less and less now because we've refined our process so much over the years and how we work with clients, the clients that we take on,
Very
all of that comes into play. So our job is to, again, like get them to a certain level of confidence, help guide them through what we think, but also what they think, and then just being able to show them the possibilities with a shorter set of options, and then ultimately give them what they need to make
Mhm.
the best decision. And I'd say honestly, 99% uh, of the time, our clients make the right decisions. I know a lot of other
Yeah, that's true.
firms might think that that's not actually like it
Yeah.
within their work, but we see it all the time. It's like as soon as it's done, it's like that makes 100% sense, and it's a job well done all around.
Yeah, you're more of a like a business partner. You're not here like a contractual company coming in and doing the work and then moving on. You're here to see them like their success is your success. So there's no point in going through this whole process if they aren't aligned with you as you go through it.
Right. And it's just going to be a waste of time for us and effort and probably a little heartbreaking. And then the client's going to just be
Yeah.
wasting their money and their time. So we know from experience, you
Yeah.
want to avoid that and just keep everyone aligned
It's
and
cool.
working towards the right goal.
Yeah, it's cool. I just come from a design background, so I'm thinking about like, showing my work to someone and having to go through that whole process. And I guess you just don't go into I mean, as me personally, haven't gone into the mindset of a naming process, and it's really unique. And that's why I keep asking you the detailed questions because I don't think it's something that many people hear about and understand the depth of thought that you go into for every single brand is it's unique.
Yeah. I think that's why I like it too. I mean, it's kind of a word nerd. There's that, but then there's like all these other dynamics which make it so unique. Names are so fundamental to how we think about the world, how we see brands and businesses. Names are
Exactly.
political, names are emotional. There are all these different things that come into play. And then, unlike design, our result is one word, one
Right.
thing. Design is
Right.
multiple things. It's colors, it's typography, it's shapes, it's all these different things working together. We just put so much pressure and so much focus on one element, and that's why it's probably why it's challenging too, because you're
Yeah.
trying to align teams around a single idea, and you're gonna just place all your bets and chips on just one word.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it's hard to find the right people as well to see your vision and understand what the goal is because I assume their backgrounds are not the same.
You mean in terms of folks that we
Your
work with, like
team.
in
Yeah,
team?
your
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, so most people come from some sort of writing related background,
Yeah.
copywriter, poetry, linguistics.
But even in that, they're so different.
Yeah, they're totally different. And what we look for is difference because we don't want cookie cutter versions of me or cookie cutter
Yeah,
versions of each
exactly.
other because it's going to lead to the same idea. So you want
Complementary. They
a
have to
large
be.
pool of people to focus on it and pitch in on any given project who can approach it from a variety of different perspectives. So that's the name of the game.
Cool. That's really, really, really fascinating to me. So if you were to jump or fast forward 3 to 5 years, what do you see for the next chapter of Tange or Chatnamer and everything that you do? Or how do you see your own role moving towards all this stuff?
Yeah, great question. To which I have probably not a great answer or a super clear answer. But one of the things, just personally, I love our work. I love running this type of business. I love engaging with our clients directly. I could see a future where we scale a little bit more, where I just have a slightly larger team
Mm.
to where, I could back out, not back out of the business, but be less in the trenches
Yeah.
and probably guiding and leading a bit more for growth. One of the things that I'm doing right now to lay that foundation is developing a lot of content around naming specifically and
Mhm.
branding at large.
Yeah.
If folks look me up on LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, you'll see that I do a lot of short form video.
Mhm.
So I'm quite active in that space, and it's obviously for promotional purposes. I'm just trying to build my own personal brand,
Yeah.
trying to raise the flag on naming in and of itself. It's not like you said, it's not something that people think about or know about.
Right.
And then the third part of that is I don't know what it could lead to, but I'm pretty
Sure.
confident it will lead to something interesting. And I like it. I just like doing it. It's actually really fun to create little pieces of content. I always say names are short, content about names should be too. So it's a good fit for
For sure.
me, for the field, and, so that's helping me kind of figure out what some next steps might be
Yeah.
in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that's great. I like the short form for sure, and that's a way to get people's attention on a subject that they may have not really thought about in detail.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of them bomb, which is totally fine, but I've had a couple go pretty wild, and that's also like
Nice.
super interesting.
Nice. Yeah, I'm learning the landscape of shorts as well. It's pretty fun actually to watch the
Yeah.
progress or no progress, just the way it goes. Yeah, so did you have any more plugs? Anything else you wanted to people to reach you? Any other channels?
Yeah, so you can look me up on LinkedIn, Scott
Mhm.
Milano, Milano, and then you could just go to Tanj.co, Tanj.co. And those are kind of the main channels. There are other ways, but I'll just leave two.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Scott, and learning about Tange and the whole naming world. It is something that is fascinating to me, and I think it's the importance of it can't be understated. There is everything that we know is wrapped around the name itself, all that we do. And for someone like you to be focusing on that very specific portion of a company and a brand, it's really cool and unique.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thanks so much for having me on the show.
It's been a pleasure. Great getting to know you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Take care, Jeffrey.
Bye, Scott. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or really anywhere you get your podcasts. And maybe you can share it with someone you know that is either interested in business, interested in founder stories, kind of hearing the behind the scenes of why people do the things that they do, and just in general, good conversation. So be sure to subscribe and follow us everywhere.